welcome to The Real Study with your hosts, Mr. Snippets, Black Girl Marvel, Mr. Marvelite, all the movie things, the pre-review with Super Kami Guru, and me, the Real Study Movie Voice Guy. Let's go to the poster wall.
Good evening and welcome to The Real Study. I am Mr. Marvelite. Wow, I'm already going to mess up the show. I am Mr. Snippets. That's Mr. Marvelite over to my left. And of course, we have Black Girl Marvel below me here. And it looks like all the movie things isn't here right now, but we are hoping that he will be. And we'll see if he shows up. Otherwise, we're going to move over to the chatting wall and we're going to get going on these movies. So tonight we are doing, as you saw on the wall there, we're doing Dune, we are doing Hereditary, and we are doing The Conjuring. James wants The Conjuring. And I kind of want to wait on Dune in case all the movie things does show up, because I know that he has a lot to say about that, and I know you both have a lot to say about it, as do I.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So why don't we just move right over into Hereditary, and then we'll go from there. Conjuring, had you guys already seen it, or was this your first viewing?
So for me, I had seen parts of it, but I'd never watched the whole thing.
Okay, Lala.
First viewing, I've never seen it before. The trailer was never like, ooh, I should watch this. So I was just like, meh, no.
I kind of felt the same way. So this was my first viewing of Hereditary as well, and it does star Toni Collette, as well as another well-known actor. Is it not Gabriel Byrne? Is that Gabriel Byrne? It might be.
That is Gabriel Byrne. Her husband.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I hadn't seen him in a long time, so that was great. Thank you, Just Enough, for that. That was so awesome. We really appreciate all the bits and the support. And we are excited about this one as well. Down a person, but we always trudge on whatever we need to do. So it's Hereditary is a very interesting slow burn of a film that kind of takes up where a family has just lost their grandmother, so the main character's mother, and she's trying to deal with this grief. And there's some amount of kind of lore around their family, but it's kind of loose. I feel like the whole beginning was very loose. Like there wasn't enough to grab me. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but it didn't give me enough to sink my teeth into until the big moment in the car. That's when the movie made me go, holy crap. Okay, that's the kind of movie we're watching. So I'm gonna leave it there. Lala, what was your initial impressions?
Initial impression was, boy, this moving slow, get to the stuff that I want to see. That was because it was just a lot of like setting the stage for a character we didn't see. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't care too much about that character. Like, I'm sorry her mom died, but it was just kind of like, we didn't know anything about her. There was nothing for me. And then she was very detached from her mother. So like it made me detached from her mother. So I didn't really care about the funeral. There were bits and pieces where I was like, okay, this is interesting. Why does this man keep looking at this child like this? She said something like, all these unfamiliar faces. I'm like, who are all these people at her mother's funeral that she don't know? Like that kind of gave me a pause for a second. But I agree with you. It moved a little slow, and I was kind of losing steam watching it. But when it picked up, boy, oh boy, it picked up. I was like, oh, okay.
And it did. It picked up hard. Mr. Marvelite, what was your initial impression?
So it was kind of interesting when I first watched the film, and I've only watched it once. I saw bits and pieces, and of course, what I saw of it was the slow parts. So it wasn't like anything was really spoiled with this viewing. But what struck me was actually the first probably 10 minutes of the film. The father is trying to wake everybody up. It's a funeral. Of course, it has that zoom in from the miniature things, which I thought, in a movie like that, I really thought the miniatures had more to play into the film. And then I was kind of sorely disappointed because I thought that was a very interesting, like, vehicle that they could have used to kind of tell a story. And I feel like now that there can't be a horror film where they've got a person building miniatures, that it kind of ruined that for me. But regardless, one of the things that surprised me was the father is getting the kids up. The little girl is obviously she's different, and the father is trying to get her to get up and go out and get dressed. But the entire time this is happening, the mother is just sitting in the car. And I was like, something's up with mom. Yeah, it sounds like the grandma's a problem. Like I felt like maybe the grandma was like the crux of everything, but the mother was really what struck me um as different. It wasn't even the fact that she wasn't in the car crying. It was literally she was in the car and the father was having to do everything to take care of the kids to get them going to this funeral. And and like I say, people grieve differently, but you still as a parent have to take care of your kids. And I'm like, okay, what's going on with the relationship with the kids? And then of course you have that moment where the mother is passing the daughter off to the son to take her to the party, which I'm like, why would any like 16-year-old, why would you send your 13-year-old daughter with a 16-year-old to a party
Not
where you're
only
drilling
that,
them about
an
drinking
antisocial
and
13-year-old, right? Like we're talking about a person
Right.
who genuinely just wants to do her own thing and build her own models and
just be
be
herself where
artistic,
she wants to be herself. Yeah, like
yeah.
I agree with that. That felt weird to me too. Was like, my mom wouldn't. Me and my brother are only 2 years apart. Like the closest brother, we're only 2 years apart. She would never force me to go anywhere with him. Like he wouldn't mind. But here's the thing: he wouldn't mind taking me, but I would be like, no, thank you. You know what I mean? Like she wouldn't be like, take her. You can't
like
go
that
unless
part.
you take her. Like that was weird. Yeah, that was
I liked
weird.
how the brother was like, does she even want to go? Like he didn't say no. He said, does she want to go? And I thought that was kind of a cool older brother thing to do. That's not always in the movies. It's usually like, no, mom, I don't want to. So, I mean, you could see that in his face, but
Yeah.
This is a spoiler show. I think everybody should know that by now. I'll put this up just for the sake of arguing. Is it even there? There it is. But we're going to talk about the moment in the car where it's completely circumstantial. Nothing there is anybody's fault. And even the cake incident where she eats the cake and starts having the anaphylactic shock, where her throat's swelling up, it's really hard to say that I could blame this kid at this point for anything that's happened up and to the exact point in which, and again, spoiler alert, in which his sister is completely obliterated by that telephone pole. At that moment, I start questioning this kid's like everything. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you just sitting there? Like, it's one thing to gather your thoughts. You just did this. You just went through this traumatic event. But I start questioning him. Just like, why did you drive home? Why did you do nothing? You did nothing. Literally nothing. And I think one of the most brutal screams I've heard in a movie was when Toni Collette finds the daughter's body.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Listen, I'm a big fan of Toni Collette. I knew Toni Collette was going to be a force to reckon with when she was in Sixth Sense. When she was in Sixth Sense. When she was in Sixth Sense, and it was the car scene, and he told her about her mom, and like, I saw her and she told me this. And he was telling her stuff that only her mom would know, and she was like freaking out. I was like, who is this person? Who is this actress? She's amazing, and anything I've seen Toni Collette in, she has blown my mind. And this is another mind blown. When she was in the bedroom just weeping, I was like, oh. And as an actor myself, it was like I was watching a masterclass of like what I'm supposed to do in the future. You know what I mean? It was so good.
Agreed.
It was so good.
Agreed. As a parent, Mr. Marvelite, you and I kind of have a little bit more of a unique perspective. Thank you for joining the chat, New Age Misfits. Thank you very much.
Hey.
And to my question, and definitely thanks for joining us. As a parent, whenever I see kid-related stuff in movies, it is a lot harder for me than it was before I was a parent. I think that's kind of a given. I think people get that. But this one especially so, because like I would feel so much resentment towards my son for doing that and for being so neglectful. And I swear that movie never addresses it.
They kind of do though. They kind of do at the dinner table. They kind of do at the dinner table because he's like, he's like, he kind of confronts her. He's like, is there something on your mind? Like, is there something you want to say? Like, they kind of get into it. They don't hit it home where she's like, when she says, like, in particular, but she says stuff to him like, we don't talk and we don't say anything. And like, and that, to me, that went into the fact that he literally came home and didn't say anything. And, but for me, I don't really blame him, because if I killed my brother by mistake, like a freak accident, and I had a hand in it, I don't know if I wouldn't have done the same thing. Like, he's a kid. He's only like 16 or something. Like, he didn't. That was a whole thing that like happened that he didn't know how to process. Because you see that he goes to sleep, but he doesn't go to sleep. He stays awake the entire night until the morning, until everything happens. Like, they talk about it. It's just not. I don't think it's like as clear as maybe you have liked it to be, like a full on.
No, and I get that. I just know as a parent, if I lost one of my children, as much as I love my children, I think it would be very difficult for me not to continue to hold that resentment.
Not get that.
So I think
kind of just period. Like, it'd be hard.
Character. So the Annie character, if you really consider it, there's a couple things like you kind of get an idea of why Peter is the way he is in this film, and the fact that he's kind of the target because he's the weakest of the individuals in the house. And on top of being the weakest, it's like everything in this movie is to bring him down a peg. The death of his sister in his own hands. You've got that resolution where she's talking to that friend who is not a friend, and she tells him that the mom would sleepwalk, and she woke up one morning, or she woke up during a sleepwalking where they're all covered in paint thinner, and she's got a match struck about to set fire to herself and the kid. The fact that in her dream state she admitted that she never wanted him and tried everything she could to miscarry, and you have all of this pent up resentment, and you realize like this is just another thing in their fractured relationship. And every single individual in this household are at the end of their thread in the relationship. And Charlie was probably the only one that was kind of the one where they all liked her, but they were dismissive of her. The mom dismissed her to the party. The brother dismissed her to go eat the cake. Even in her death, Charlie is probably high to the point of where, or I'm sorry, Peter is probably to the point where he doesn't believe that it's real, but also doesn't want to believe that it's real. And so you notice he never looks over at her. Nope. He continues on, and he gets in the car, or he gets out and goes up to his bed. And it's kind of that idea of, if I don't acknowledge it, and I know as a kid, I remember going through moments like that where I did something really stupid, and if I don't acknowledge it, if I don't look at it, maybe if I go to bed, I'll wake up and it was all a bad dream.
No, and those feelings you have when you know you've done wrong, like you're pulling up on your friend's house and your parents are there, and you're like, why are my parents here? Like you get that intense feeling, and I can see how that can overwhelm him in one of the most intense versions of that feeling, because he would know the world was going to come down on him. I get that. I'm not saying that if I was him, I wouldn't do it. I just know that it would be, I don't know. It's a tricky one, but I digress.
Definitely get it. But I want to touch on the whole like eating that cake thing. I knew something was gonna happen to her because they didn't have a EpiPen at the funeral for her, which is to me dismissive of both parents and the siblings. If you know that this kid has a peanut allergy or a nut allergy, everybody should have an EpiPen on their person at all times. That's just what people do. And then to have your sister at a party that she obviously doesn't feel comfortable at, and you're like, yo, there goes cake, go eat some cake, and not going to see if somebody puts something in that cake that nut based or whatever is. I mean, I get it. He's a kid. He wanted to go have fun and he dismissed it. But I felt like Charlie was still of an age where like she knew that she had an allergy. Like, why wouldn't she check out to see if it, like, that part kind of caught me off guard, because I know people who have allergies, they're very meticulous. They're very like
it sounds like she's gone through it before.
It's just it's like one of those things where I worked at an acting studio where we had candy, and the little girl, she was no older than maybe 7 or 8, walked up to the counter and was like, "Does any of these have nuts in it? I have an allergy. I can't eat it." Like she was on top of it. So for the teen to not be on top of her own allergy, that part kind of was like, okay. But even okay, New Age Misfits,
That's a good point.
Even if she was afraid to ask a question, right? Don't eat the cake. You don't know.
Well, I actually thought at one moment that maybe the cake was spiked with, the green stuff. You never know. Yeah. I saw chocolate cake and I went, chocolate. Oh, okay. Why are they? It's a party where he's already smoking. It just made sense to me. And then, of course, the allergy is the same thing. But she could have had a bad reaction to that. Party. Right. And what party has that's the other thing. What party like that has a cake? Unless it was like a birthday party and it wouldn't have just been sitting there and it wouldn't have been that little if it was for that many people. I know there were a lot of the cake's weird. The cake is a lie. If you play video games.
But I think it was something to, I guess, get Charlie to die. It was a catalyst.
Yeah, they had to get her to die. And I have to give them, that's creative and realistic. I believed it because she was spazzing out and he that's like the most very rare circumstance, but I believed it. And then I started having problems with this movie. My problem
in this movie were very nice. I enjoyed it.
Hold on, you both, Lala, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that some of the jump scares and camera placements, where you would have to pay attention, when the son walked into the living room and saw his charred father on the ground, and Toni Collette's up in the corner. You would miss her if you didn't really pay attention. I liked things like that. They were very creative on placement or where they put people or shading over people that it made you think did I see something? No, because there was a couple of times where I rewound the movie to be did I see what she saw? Wait a second. No.
Yeah.
Those are fun to me because in horror movies like this, sometimes writers and they're not as creative as I would like them to be, and I don't get a rush, and I got a rush when I saw certain stuff. When she started running at him out of the corner, it was so good. I was that is so good because you just didn't see it coming. So okay. I like that.
I'll give you all of those. Go ahead.
That Mr. one scene though in the attic though, completely pulled me out of the movie there. When the guy ran toward him and he jumped out the window, I was okay, I'm checked out. It was hard to kind of believe that at that point. But some of the jump scares were definitely you expected them, but then they almost played on the fact that we know they're coming, so let's go ahead and move it a little bit over. So that kind of helped.
It's hard if you've seen a lot of horror movies though that they have to get more creative with these jump scares. And I just watched Halloween and Halloween Kills, and we're not going to go into those movies, but they do the same thing with kills now. They feel like they need to amp it up to a point where it's ridiculous and over the top because that's what's been done before. And I'm like, he's Michael Myers. Just have him stab people. It's okay. That's okay. His thing's a knife. I'm okay with that.
I'm sorry. He was Ninja Michael Myers.
Anyway, we could do a whole segment on just Halloween movies, but we another time. So for me, when she was pounding her head against the entrance to the attic, man, that really, I was like, ooh, that's creepy. That's very, very, very creepy. And I like that kind of stuff.
No, what was creepy was
then how'd she get in the attic though? That bothered me.
How'd she get into the attic?
Yes.
I mean,
the people that were already up there opened the attic for her and got her
locked
up there.
It before he walked away from the trap door.
But then he walked away. Well, remember, there were 4 or 5 people over in the corner that easily let her in.
So while he's looking around, you hear a and then there the thing goes up and you don't notice the trap door opening. That bothered me because I felt like they didn't explain that. You guys may say the door opened, but I don't think it did.
All they had to do was kick it down. If one of them was up there, they just push it with their foot. It would open and let her
in. You would have heard that while he's turning around.
Or it's a demon and it can manifest wherever it wants to.
But can it take a human body with it?
I mean, she was pretty much dead halfway through the decapitation, and
I mean that was a pretty loud decapitation. I mean, I don't know if
you heard it. So you heard it, you heard her head snapping her body fall when he was on the ground.
I'm I'm going to put the spoilers thing back up again because I want to talk about the actual ending right now. So if you've not seen this movie or you plan on watching it, this will absolutely spoil the end. So be prepared.
Yes, the dog is meant to go.
I'm going to tell you guys why this movie, because, okay, Just Enough and I were talking about this the other night. I didn't give too much in the way of detail because I wanted to do it on the show, but I basically explained how I feel about the movie basically with a rating. And so it was this movie, and I'm going to give my rating right now weirdly, but it's a 5 out of 10. If they had changed the ending, it would have been an 8 out of 10 for me. But the ending is, I was very disappointed. And it sounds like all the movie things won't be making it tonight, but let's just keep him in our thoughts and hope all goes well for him. So it will just be the three of us, but hey, there you go. Thanks for the first time chat. We really appreciate it. Anyway, so the thing I hate is that they had to just spell it out. When you just spell it all the way out for me, I get really annoyed because I as a viewer, I feel that my intelligence is higher than that, and you should let me decide what truly the big bad is. And in this movie, they literally are like, here his name is, it's this satanic cult, which every movie does now. And I think that a better ending would have been had he walked up to the camera, and instead of them having all that dialogue, just have it be murmuring and them still prostrating to him, the whole deal, but then just have him smile, because he didn't smile for almost the entire film. And it would have been a really solid ending with him, just a smile, cut to credits. I would have been like, holy crap, that's a masterpiece, or at least close, 8 or 9. But it wasn't from my perspective. So that's me. And I really wanted Just Enough to hear that specifically. So I don't normally do that, but there it is.
I mean, I will say the ending threw me off a little bit because part of me, I didn't really care about like how it ended with them like giving him reference and all that type of stuff. Like I didn't really care about that. The part that got me was what I didn't understand was the lady that was like supposedly like the lady that lost her sons and all that kind of stuff. Like she called him Charlie at the end. So is it Paimon or is it Charlie? Or are they like one because that entity has been in Charlie probably since birth and has kind of like been like a form of Charlie this entire time? Because part of me is like, was it Charlie that clicked or was it Paimon that did the clicks, right?
Okay.
Because
the answer to this one.
You do?
So it's so that was the part for me that was kind of like off to me because it was just like, because the whole thing, like the grandmother wished that Charlie was a boy, but they housed Paimon inside Charlie. But then you saw images of like the grandmother being married, so that she married her granddaughter, which was like marrying Paimon. Like it was a whole thing. Like some things I just needed explained. But the ending really confused me because she calls him Charlie, and I was like, so is it Charlie's soul or is it? I didn't know.
So if you go back in the film, you find that the granddaughter Charlie was the one that was closest to the deceased grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She went with and did things with her, and at one point, the mom even says she gave her Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, the grandmother had possession over Charlie, and later on, I think in that end scene, they said, we did not get your body right, and or your body was it was wrong, or they said something specifically about referring to Charlie, because if you notice, Charlie had like the deformation, and a little bit of awkward or whatever. And what they did was they targeted Peter at that point to weaken him, so that the Charlie, who was Paimon, could then possess his body. So they brought Charlie back, who was Paimon.
That still sounds confusing, but okay.
It sounds confusing, but like the
so I'm assuming that this is kind of what I'm hearing, like what I'm seeing in my head when you're talking, is that when Charlie was born, they pretty much snuffed out the original Charlie soul and put Paimon in. So the whole time that like everybody loves Charlie and all that kind of stuff, she's been this demon. Well, it's a demon. Paimon, this god of mischief the entire time she's been alive, which is why at the funeral the guy kind of like winked at her, was all happy to see her because he knows that it's actually Paimon. So It's confusing. I don't.
Charlie was considered the chosen one. The bodies were preferred to be male, but the concept was Charlie was that chosen individual, and whether because the grandmother had them early off, her soul was like intertwined with this, king of the gate, one of the kings of the gates of hell,
Okay.
and so you have this this body that is not working for Pyman, and then because of it, in the situation, and she ends up dying. And so you have, the opportunity, because it's very specific. Whereas when they did the seance at that woman's house, it was just done through the chalkboard. Charlie specifically was able to
Possessed
possess
her
her
mother.
mother. And if you go into movie like demonism and like possessions and stuff like that, really people that have passed do not possess people. It's always the demons that possess people. And so if
Demons that
that's the
possess
case,
people, right?
then Charlie was the demon. Charlie was Pyman. So it kind of gets to that thing. And yeah.
We just got a new subscription. I just wanted to say thank you so much for the new subscription, Matt. That was very awesome. Welcome to the Real Study, and where we have our real students in the chat, and you can learn about real movies. We're just going to use that to death, I think. Okay.
We have to.
We have to.
We get real honest here.
We are real honest.
Really?
Really,
Really?
we are.
Really?
Okay, guys, let's reel this in. We're getting a little bit off track.
Okay. That being said, I think that we've covered the film pretty well. Is there anything else you guys would like to talk about, or anything else you can remember other than, man, that head was pretty grody.
Yeah, there were some things about this movie that I actually liked. I mean, I did not like the movie. I liked the movie, but I loved some of the new things, like when the son was being possessed at the school, like how his body froze and he was all like this thing, like he like bashed his head like he was like Black Widow or something like that. Like
Why do you always do the pose?
Yes. So but there were just aspects that I thoroughly enjoyed because they weren't like typical horror movie like trophy type things. Like it just looked fresher to me.
Sure.
And I enjoy those. Again, I don't want a movie to spell things out for me, but I do want them to conclude things for me.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
You open the door, if you open a door, if you open a window, you have to close it eventually. Like so.
You like it when the writers define things enough for you to have a solidified ending where you can say, okay, this makes sense as an ending. Okay.
Right.
You don't mind if it's a little.
Just mentioned.
Yeah.
New Age Mystics just said the actor, he actually broke his nose when he slammed his face in the desk.
Oh no. Oh,
that's fun.
I love it when they leave that in there, and I thank you, to him for that, and all the actors who have put themselves, and stunt people. Let's give it out to all the stunt people, and let's also, while we're at it, since we're just we're running on wild, and Brian's not here to help us out with this, but IATSE figured their stuff out, and that means everybody's going to start getting paid better and treated better, and that's going to help us be able to support the films even more. And thank you, and that's awesome. And I just wanted to put that out there. So
I thought we decided that if Brian wasn't here, that I would be him.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I did. My bad, dude. I'm so sorry. I almost wish we could start figuring out the Brady Bunch.
Well, I actually figured out because I've got the stream watching, so I'm like,
yeah, no, you're over there. Yeah, exactly. And then Lala's right there.
Right down here.
Yeah, here. Anyway, yes. So, yeah, that's, and I noticed you and I are both wearing red. And then, of course, Mr. Marvelette over there is wearing blue. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And I was hoping Brian would show up with a blue hat. That would be interesting. Yeah, Brian would be over where you're pointing now. Yeah, he's over there.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. That's Tony over there. Tony's like the upper corner.
Yeah. But if Brian would be, well, it doesn't matter. We're way off track.
Well, I think I'm where Brian would be at because I'd be down here.
So no, Lala's up there. Lala's always on the top right.
I'm usually up in the corner and then you guys are at the bottom.
Right.
We're all flip-flopped.
I literally put you guys up here in the order you joined the show. That's how I put it up here. So like
That's nice.
I do it in that way so that everybody can understand that I love all of you equally, and it has nothing to do with anything other than longevity of time on the show, seniority, if you will.
But he loves me more though.
Well, we love all the kind tidbits from Mr. Snippets.
Oh, tidbits, snidbits. I love it. Okay. So we do have another 2 movies to go through. And of course, I think The Conjuring is going to take the reel it in. Reel it in, guys. Oh, she's laughing. Sorry.
Well, it's a pun. Thanks. For letting us know it's a pun. Thank you. We love puns.
So we're going to move on to The Conjuring, but we also have the pre-review loaded and ready. Sean always does amazing work for us and always looks for the movies he's excited for, which gets me excited about movies I haven't even heard of yet. And of course, we have to put a big shout out to Cell Phone and Wallet and Keys, also known as Mickey, who is our voiceover guy. He is fantastic and deserves all the love in the world. And we'll give you one of these in his honor.
Good morning, Charlie.
So yeah, we've got a lot of his voices. I'm going to try to get more and more of them. While we're on kind of a little hiatus here and we're just talking, I'm going to give you guys my idea and let's see what the chat thinks. I think that potentially we should start doing an after talk where we get on the Discord and invite our chatters over to the Discord and chat with them about the movie live rather than, we won't be streaming this. This would just be on the Discord after the fact. And whoever wants to go and can go that night can. As long as one of us is in there moderating and talking, then it would be whoever's up for being there for as long as they want.
Idea.
I think it should be, I like that, but I think it should be I don't know. I think it should be timed because all of us are on the time zone. Like a few of us are all of us on the same time zone. So like I would say, I don't know, I want to be like an hour and a half, but like because for me when we're finished, it's midnight here for me, right? And for me to kind of like, I wouldn't mind being in the conversation. I'm just saying, just not to go really deep into it. I just think it should be like, we'll talk with everybody for like an extra hour or two, just to kind of like put a time to it.
Agreed. I like that.
Agreed.
And it's not set in stone, and it's something that we could play with, and we could even do it on another night where we just do like chat with the real study or something. I just want to get feedback and see if people would be interested, because if they're not interested, then we'll just keep doing the show and then we're done. So it's no big deal. But it sounds like you guys may be up for it if it's the right setting and the right situation. So that's awesome. And if you guys like it, just throw it in the chat. Otherwise, let's move on to the next movie, which is you guys didn't rate it. I rated. You guys didn't rate it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Marley.
So let's face it. As much as it was slow at the beginning, I find that this film was much more cohesive than Mandy ever was. And I'm not. It was not my cup of tea last week, and so definitely had that going for it. I think there were some times where it was like the jump scares were a little bit too obvious. I shared on Discord with like Real Marvel and Mr. Snippets beforehand that I felt like this was kind of a mix between Witch and Skeleton Key. And if you haven't seen either of those movies, those are actually pretty good films. And it's not so much because of the story; it's not like a direct take from it, but it's kind of that idea of once you go down the rabbit hole, there was no turning back. And especially like with the Skeleton Key, where it does deal with like the idea of possession, but it's more of the voodoo side of it. It's all about belief and getting involved, and so for me it was kind of comfortable. I liked where it went. I think the story was good. I definitely feel like there should have been that little smile at the end, like Mr. Snippet said. So I would say probably about a 7.5 for this film, and that's I have to watch it again, and I probably would be willing to watch this again because I think there are things that we missed that would probably be good to go back and kind of look at and kind of catch up on and see. And there had been talk for a long time for this movie to have a sequel. It's not really in production right now, but the director does have another the producer has another contract to produce another horror film, and they're really pushing for him to do a Hereditary Hereditary 2. So yeah, that's it.
What would that look like?
What
would a Hereditary 2 look like?
We go deeper into the whole Pyman.
Are you saying do it a prequel? Like maybe the first time you
No,
saw
Somebody
it.
like
has
the
Kind of thing?
sequel, like he's now taken on the soul. What does that then mean?
You're
Because
saying keep going.
when the king of hell is possessed the body, he now needs a bride.
That's a fair point.
There's no more. That is a fair point, but I feel like there's no more family left. So like, how do you? Will it just
That
be
you
like a
know of.
Halloween kill? Will it be like a Halloween kill thing where it's like you just here forever, you never die, nobody knows why. So it's okay.
What is
Oh,
your?
I agree. I hope he
no,
doesn't.
no.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. We have to keep the show moving. That's why you're here. It's fine. I enjoyed this film. I mean, I guess I'll say I enjoyed Toni Collette's performance probably more than I enjoyed the film itself. But like, I'm an actor that watches actors, so like, I really enjoyed what she brought to the table. Gabriel Byrne is nothing to sneeze at neither. Like, his subtleties are very powerful in this film as well. I feel like everybody played their part very, very well. What's his name? I believe his name is Alex Wolf. I believe his name is
That sounds right.
his name is Alex Wolf. He's just he's great. Like, I'm enjoying seeing him in the little things that I've seen him make. If I saw him in that movie Old, he did very good in that. So like, I'm enjoying like what he's bringing forth. I liked some of the jump scares. Like, I'm telling you, when she chased him from the corner, I was like, that was great. Like, I didn't get scared because I don't have emotions and I don't and things like that. It doesn't scare me anymore. But I was like, oh, that's a good, because like the camera just turned and she shot off. Like, Toni Collette is just tops for me in this. Yes, United States of Terror is amazing. If nobody's ever seen that, she plays a character that has multiple identities. It's a freaking amazing show. I was so sad when it ended, but I enjoyed this film. I would probably give this film a 7.
All right.
7 out of 10. Will probably never watch this again in all my days unless somebody was like, have you ever seen Hereditary? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, you want to watch it with me? And I'm like, sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say no. Like, it's a movie, that's fine. But I don't see myself being like, you know what? This is a good evening for some Hereditary viewing. Like, I just won't. That
Like
just won't be me.
Like me, you might watch little clips. Like I might want to watch a couple of scenes from Toni Collette doing her thing because she like you said, that's exactly what I said. The reason it's a 5 and not a 2 is Toni Collette. Like that's the reason, because she's so phenomenal. She elevates anything she's in. I agree. The telephone or the piano wire sound was awful and gritty and pretty awful overall. I agree.
No, listen, her in the corner, her up in the corner while he's like seeing his father, like, and it was just, I don't know, it's a lot in this film to like unpack. You know, it's just a lot in this film. You could talk about it for days, actually.
And that's why we've got to move on, because we do have 2 other films to talk about, and I do want to get Sean's pre-review is only about 4 minutes, so it shouldn't be too bad. But we'll get into The Conjuring first. So, The Conjuring, James Wan directed, and this is not the first James Wan film that we have actually reviewed on this show. He's actually now the most reviewed real study director. Not sure how I feel about that. Okay. That being said, this is a story about the Warrens, who are a paranormal, I think they have passed on at this point, paranormal investigators from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, who have collected a ridiculous number of either possessed or creepy or weird items for occult reasons and gathered them together. And they've kind of spent their lives, writing a book, and we catch on to them when they're kind of past their prime. They've done a lot of these things and they're kind of not retiring, but they're kind of winding down a bit. And we find, Just Jesse just subscribed again for 8 months straight. Just Jesse, welcome. You are awesome. Now, Just Jesse has been one of the original Real Study viewers. She's been back since almost a year ago. She started, obviously 8 months, but she was even around.
She was more of a Bits and Wig follower.
Even before that, when it was just Mr. Snidbits Reviews the Movies. So she goes way back. Wow. So thank you so much, Just Jesse. And if you don't follow her, please do. There's something wrong with the shout outs tonight. So take those names, copy them out, follow these folks. They're amazing.
Let's click on their name.
That's another way to do it. We find Ed and Lorraine Warren are basically showing us their backstory about Annabelle, and of course that's a whole nother movie. And Annabelle's got a little bit to do with The Conjuring, but not much really. So if you've never seen these, don't get all excited that you're going to learn about that doll in this movie, because you'll learn only the basics.
I watched it and was like, oh, is this where the doll came from?
Yeah. So ultimately, the movie is about a family who is in a house which is haunted, and the Warrens already retire, but the mother begs them to come check this out, and craziness ensues. So that's the synopsis. Of all the James Wan productions that have been made, this is my favorite. This is his strongest production, in my opinion. And so I actually don't hate this movie like I do most other James Wan's productions, like Malignant. And it's for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons. So there's my initial take. I'm going to let Mr. Marvelite go next. Go for it, sir.
I'm gonna make you a James Wan TV t-shirt.
Yeah.
You're going to make me meet him too, right?
Just what you want. So
yeah. Oh no.
Okay.
That was
yeah.
bad
I'm going down
pun.
that road.
That
Okay.
was a bad pun.
So okay. So Ed and Lorraine Warren. As a youth, I was introduced to them more into the paranormal documentaries that they did. They used to do stuff through like Discovery. They ended up also Lorraine Warren, after Ed's death, ended up doing a stint on a show called Paranormal State, which ended up having a lot of like logistical and legal issues after the fact, which was actually like a Penn State paranormal investigating group. She was on that a couple times, counseling the main investigator, and which he also had claimed to be haunted by things through his entire life. Regardless of what you believe about paranormal and the supernatural, it's definitely their stories are definitely interesting to delve into, and I think that's what I find with the Conjuring series, and especially if you didn't see earlier this year, the Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which was another story in the series of this couple, and they do take from real life instances that they claim of things that have happened, but of course, with film, you're always grandizing things, and it's not real. Like the Annabelle doll, for instance. Annabelle, the real Annabelle, which if you are ever on TikTok, there is a guy who has inherited the entire Warren estate and is keeping the museum going, and sometimes he will do lives through TikTok or through YouTube.
I did not know
if you
that.
look him up, you can find that. But the actual Annabelle doll is a Raggedy Ann doll.
I knew that.
And honestly, it's funny though, because they grandize these things. I find that the real occult museum that Ed and Lorraine Warren left behind is much creepier than what you see in the film.
Really? You don't think that the Annabelle doll is creepier than a Raggedy Ann doll?
I think the Annabelle doll itself is creepier, but the story behind that actual Raggedy Ann doll makes it even more sinister, because the idea of it being something more innocent looking, like, okay, first of all, who was stupid enough
if
to
it was a Care Bear, like, whoa, dude, that Care Bear is a demon,
like killer Care Bear, you just at that point it's like, or it kills you with the Care Bear stare, because you just can't stop looking at it, you stop breathing.
You just changed Care Bear stare in my life.
Exactly, right? Terrible. So you have things like that. Like there are stories that even people, they stopped letting people come down to the museum because somebody actually challenged the doll, and the guy who challenged the doll ended up dying in a motorcycle accident on the way home from the museum. So I find that stuff, the coincidental of reality, more interesting than sometimes the productions. But
I don't feel like that's coincidental, but go ahead.
Well, it goes all with my college degree and background and stuff. It's like I'm very cynical when it comes to paranormal stuff. And this is a movie show. It's not a paranormal show. It's not a paranormal show. But the one thing I do honestly agree with the way the Warrens explain it, you have a lot of people who talk about, a lot of the individuals in these hauntings are, people that didn't move on, and that's not the case. If we're going by what the Catholic Church says, or even what other ecumenical groups do, anything that has the ability to haunt or possess, it's always demonic. And with the Warrens, it's always something demonic involved, which is not just a ploy. It's just that's literally what they dealt with. but with this movie, we have the typical. It's definitely like the house, the Amityville Horror, which is another Ed and Lorraine story. And you have this couple that comes into this house, which is cursed by a witch that was part of the original Salem witch trials. And she ends up killing her child and hanging herself, and cursing. Oh yeah, well, are we thank you.
So
And hanging herself, cursing the land in the process. And at that point, anybody who lives on this land is going to face the curse of we're going to say it was Bathsheba, wasn't it?
yes, yeah.
So you have this story, and I mean it's procedural. If you really look at the Conjuring films, they're very very procedural. It's more of the relationship between Ed and Lorraine that I think is the most compelling in the story, and I don't find these movies terrifying or scary in any sense. Um, I just kind of want to. It's not even like the jump scares for me. It's like, okay, let's just go and do another story, because I look at it as, okay, I wonder how much of this was actually true to the events or not. So yeah, that's my first.
This is like, I don't know if these are costs, but um, um, I found it entertaining. I mean, just to like kind of say, like it was entertaining to me. Like I wasn't scared. I wasn't, even though I do believe in like the supernatural, paranormal. But one is a movie, so I'm like, okay, I could suspend my disbelief. Gazoo type, gazoo type. Um,
Thank you.
no problem. But it was very entertaining. I found myself watching it and going, "Oh, what's about to happen next? Oh, so what's gonna happen with the family? So, oh, what's like?" I found myself, myself. I don't know where I'm from, but I found myself oohing a lot, just wanting to know more about like the Warrens. I could see that's like the husband and wife team. Like, I want to know more about them. I love how things were connected in this film, like how they got to their daughter through the necklace because it's a connection between the two of them. Like I thought that was like very smart. Um, I do like some of the things that happen. Like I put this on my TikTok about. I put this on my TikTok about how uh the mother thought her kids were up, and she's like, "I'm gonna lock you in the basement," and then she gets the door slapped her in the head, and she gets locked in the basement. I could understand how that's terrifying to be banging on the door for somebody to help you, and no one can hear you scream, right? That's the whole thing about horror movies, is like no one can hear you scream. Literally, no one can hear her scream. And then to have the little boy like right by her, like shrouded in darkness, like some of this stuff was like very nice, like aesthetically to look at. But I found it very interesting. I found myself more connected to the Warrens than to the family that had the house possessed. I did read though that there is a couple that bought that house, and they say weird things do happen around that house.
I think it's for sale again,
Like
by the way.
they've seen like doors close and open, and they've seen things move and shift, and but they say that they don't, because they are a paranormal couple, like a couple, so they're like, we don't feel an evil presence, but they've seen some weird stuff happen. Um, I enjoyed it. Like again, I won't watch it again, but I for a first viewing and knowing, and honestly, I've seen the trailers because I watch trailers and things like that. Never been compelled to watch it. No one's ever been like, let's go to the movies and see it.
Really?
I was like, oh yeah, I've never like, I don't really hang around a lot of people that want to go see like movies like this, and that's not like my first thing to go watch. But I like Patrick Wilson, so
See, I
because I
like
loved
Vera
him in that old.
Farmiga. I think she's great.
If you've ever seen that old commercial where him and Claire Danes are like dancing, I love that. But anyway, because he's actually a trained dancer, really. But I enjoyed the film. I thought it was great to watch. It was just nice to see the hype. Like I remember when it came out, and people were going crazy about it. Like, oh my god, you see the Conjuring, and I was like, nah. But it was like, I think I can better appreciate movies like that now as an adult than I could when it first came out. That's how
Patrick Wilson is a babe too. Also a very talented actor. See, I could actually see Patrick Wilson and Bradley Cooper playing brothers. That's just me. And thank you for noticing my mic was muted. I apologize for that, but you picked up on my cues anyway, so that's awesome. What about the thing I think that drives me crazy about true story horror movies is I automatically feel like it has to be grounded in reality. And that's kind of something Mr. Marvelite was kind of alluding to was, if you're skeptical of the paranormal or if you have issues, and as much as he's interested in the Warrens for that, even though he's a skeptic when it comes to paranormal, I'm also a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal, and they drive me nuts. The movies get way worse in my opinion. And by the time I got to 3, I was like, can you just shut this off, please? Because it became kind of almost a parody of itself with how much they started to overact their parts with each other. And it became this love story. And I was like, I don't care enough about you guys to care about this. So I feel the opposite. I felt like I understood the family and just the regular dad and his wife being possessed. I put myself in those shoes and what would that be like? Same thing with the kids. I've got 2 girls. So for me, I did relate to the family a little bit more. But at the same time, I don't know. This is probably one of the better horror movies in a while because of the quality of the jumps and it was a well-crafted film. And I think I would give it to the writers for this one. Again, you guys know how I feel about James Wan's work. So I feel like the writers did a good job. And again, it's not that he doesn't have good style. I like the look of the film, the feel. A lot of the camera work is great. It's not over the top in this one like he's been doing a little bit more now. But Chad Hayes and it looks like Carrie Hayes are the writers, and I think they did a solid job. And I'm not sure if they were on the other 2 films. Probably not. That's not usually the case. This one, so the second movie was actually James Wan's screenplay, so it's a completely different story and done by him rather than the original writer. So I feel like there's a disconnect there in the second film. There's so much footage that they claim to have gotten, so many things that they recorded. Like, I want to hear the tape where the girl doesn't talk. I want to hear that, but that's not going to ever happen. That's not available, or it's just a plot point, like Marvelite was saying. So I get really, iffy, but then they made it emotional. So it was about the connection between the husband and the wife, both the Warrens and the family, both had that. You get to see them. So to me, there was a lot of emotion, and that draws me in enough. So Insidious or The Conjuring? If I had to pick, is that the question?
I'm assuming.
I am too.
I will say that I like the practical effects. I love the makeup of the mom, like when she was possessed and like Bathsheba was coming through her. Like I love the makeup, like when he called her name and the way her face was looking. Like I love that. I love how they turned her upside down in the chair. Like I love when like the demon like snatched her and like pulled her into the room and then threw her against the wall. Like I knew all that was wiring, but they could have easily CGI'd it, I'm pretty sure, but it just looks better when it's kind of like done by like pulleys and things like that. Like it sits better with me. So I enjoy those things. I enjoy when things are like simple but effective. I love them.
I agree with practical effects. They're necessary to make horror movies especially feel really good. Mr. Marvelite.
So I hesitated even talking about this tonight, and so again we're basing this off. These are off the events of Ed and Lorraine Warren. The actual story this is based off is very different. Ed and Lorraine Warren are very they're very simple when it comes to how they handle certain things. In fact, there was no resolution to this event. Bathsheba was actually, a woman. I think it was her husband's name was Judson. They lived in the farmhouse around the 1800s. She didn't actually kill her own child. She was implicated in possibly killing the neighbor's child. But was never like convicted of anything. Like they never charged her because there wasn't enough, evidence or anything toward the fact of her doing it. It was just suspicions. There when the family went into the house, really what they noticed was there was a lot of like the brooms would go missing, or it would like show up in weird places and move around and stuff. and of course you had that overall sense of like uncomfortableness. Um, when the Warrens were brought in, they actually had visited the house over a span of years, and the last time they visited, they did a séance. Lorraine ran a séance where it was believed that Carolyn, the mother, her chair was lifted off of the ground. She began speaking in tongues and was possessed and was thrown across the room, to which the father then kicked them out of the house and they never returned. And it wasn't until the 1980s that the family just left, and then the paranormal events seemed to go away. So
that's very
10% of the story is actually true, but
right.
So again, it's like if you're going for that paranormal fix, I always tell people, go to Discovery Channel or go to like the destination travel or whatever it is. They'll do those those paranormal like type stories and stuff. But like these movies, they're just for fun. These are not, again, don't think you're getting any type of facts or any education about what's going on with them. And so I always get kind of leery when I watch these films. It's like for me, Poltergeist, complete fiction, love the film.
Right.
The Shining, complete fiction, love the film. You have, The Conjuring. Okay, it's a fiction based off of what was supposed to be like an actual event, and there's so much muddled. People actually look at these movies as like their encyclopedia of paranormal activity, and it just drives me nuts.
Right. No, and I think there's a
But
part
if
that drives me
I
nuts too.
separate myself from it, I love it. Like I did like the jump scares. I did like that stuff. A lot of those things were expected, especially if you've, again, this was like the first of the Conjuring films. I think this was like they had Annabelle first and then they did the Conjuring films, didn't they?
Nope, this was first. So this
this
came
was
out
first.
and then
Okay.
they made Annabelle almost right after, like because
right,
of the
and then they had the
popularity of this.
Conjuring 2 and
Right.
the
And then
Devil Made Me Do It
Annabelle, Annabelle, what is the second one? It's not Comes Home. That's the third one.
Homecoming. Was it Homecoming?
Wait, so there's 3. That's Spider-Man.
Yeah, there are 3 Annabelle movies and there are 3 Conjuring movies. There are 6 total. Well, there are 8 total films because also the Spanish film and then the Nun as well. I always forget the Spanish film's name. There are 2 others though.
Annabelle Comes Home.
Should be the third one.
I haven't seen any of those. I'm just kind of like.
Here's chronological order.
So just enough said paranormal that Conjuring is one of her favorite possession paranormal type films. For me, it was The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I actually really love that movie for possessions. Creation, that's the word. Annabelle Creation. So yeah, you were gonna say, Lala?
Yeah, you were gonna say. Oh, I said I've never seen them. I don't watch. Like I said, I believe in the paranormal. I believe, like as a Christian woman, I do believe, because if I believe in God, that means I believe in the devil, and if I believe in the devil, that means I believe in demons. Like I believe, you know what I mean? Like you can't. I feel like you can't have one without the other. You can't, you can't do that. I believe in this one thing and not believe in all the things that it encompasses. So I just never put myself in the way to. I watch certain things, but then certain things like I just don't. I'm like, I'd rather not open myself up to that. Only way I'll watch it is if it's for something that I have to do, but I won't go seek it out myself.
Now remember, we do reserve the right to not watch certain movies. So if a movie ever comes up that you're like, I'm not doing it, let me know and we won't do it. Even if it's redeemed, we reserve that right. So just because of triggers and other various reasons, and like you're not going to make me.
That was never a point. I would just take I wouldn't prevent anybody from doing the review. I would just say, hey, this might be a good time for me to take a vacation real quick.
That's what I'm saying. So like, there's ways we could work it out or whatever. Like I stepped away for Shang-Chi. That could happen again, and especially since I'm the one producing this side of the show, you could easily step away for that movie if you plan on not watching it, and then come back. Just leave your camera on or whatever. Mute your mic. And
I feel like as a performer myself, like there might be times where I might have to do a scene that I might not be. I mean, I'll never put myself in a position to feel a certain way, but there might be times where, like, for my job, I have to do things, and sometimes I feel like this is my job, because this is what I do regularly. Like I come here, I do this regularly. I don't have a problem doing this for my job, but personally, I wouldn't go seek some of these movies out because it's not my jazz. you know.
Yeah. We are working really hard for you, is what she's trying to say. Really hard.
Exactly. I'm putting my soul at risk for the students. Okay, no, I'm fine.
Okay, so it has this movie. It's not one that I feel like we can break it down because it's just an unfolding of events, and I guess we'd have to take it step by step to break the whole thing down. I don't really want to do that.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Can I say one thing? This drove me nuts. So they get in the house. They're playing the hide and seek game with the clapping and the blindfold, which was kind of cool because I liked how that got played into the spirit kind of
paranormal part. Yeah.
But what family buys a house that doesn't know there's a cellar, and the cellar is where the furnace is? Like, you bought the house expecting there to be no furnace? Like, was that a thing? Because honestly, it wasn't until they discovered the secret cellar that they discovered there was a furnace in the house. Like, that just drove me nuts.
I'm with you there.
Oh, look, we have air conditioning too.
I'd be inspecting places.
Yeah, and wouldn't you get the blueprints? I think when you buy a house, you have the right to the blueprints, which means you'd know there was a cellar.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
I mean, you can go to the county office and get that stuff. Like, that's not that hard.
Yeah. It's like this. If you're ever so desperate to buy a house, at least look at like the blueprints. That's like the least you can do. I get back in those days, maybe it was a little bit different. Like, home inspectors was not a thing maybe back in the
in the 70s. Yeah, it was a thing.
Well, where you like paid people to actually check your house out beforehand, because like there's a lot of movies where people go to like these crap holes and it's like,
it is like
really
that is a big trope though, where it's like people will be like, this house is on the market and I just bought it. He's like, well, did you get anybody to check it out? Nah. Like, it's okay, I know how to fix stuff, and they just like don't get their house checked out, and crap happens, and they're surprised.
The Ghostbusters fire station is one of those many pieces of property where they are like, this place should be condemned, which means they didn't get an inspector, and they did it anyway. They just built the place, and they put it in an illegal facility holding ghosts. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
you're right. It's a terrible trope because it's everywhere. You do not watch too many horror movies. That's your thing. So that's awesome that you do it. For me, like I said, we can move into ratings because I really want to talk about Dune. Like bad.
Justine, don't open that door.
What?
It said, I've never seen blueprints in my house. There's a tiny door in the closet under the stairs. I still haven't opened it.
Don't see the Paranormal Activity movies, right?
The Warrens are not there. I mean, so like, we'd have to come like do an investigation. I don't know if I could do that.
No, my wife would be interested. I'm out. Either I'd be too cynical to be around and the ghost would never show up, or I wouldn't like what I found. So either way,
I can barely get through a game of Phasmophobia. I don't know if I could even. No.
Okay, so rating this film, I would like to hear from Mr. Marbley.
It's okay. So it's a typical Warren story. I mean, obviously I've seen a bunch of them. Just after seeing recently the Devil Made Me Do It, which was the one that came out earlier this year. They're very much in par. So I would probably say I would give this film. I think I liked Hereditary a little bit better, just because it seemed like it was a little bit more original than The Conjuring. So I'd probably give it maybe like a 6.5, almost 7.
Lala.
The Conjuring was okay. Like I said, like I had those moments where I was like, what's happening here? Like why like I just need my movies to be more realistic. I mean, and I get it, this movie was back in the day, so like movies are kind of getting more realistic, like with like Get Out. Like Get Out was very realistic to me in the sense of like how a person, especially a Black person, but this is how a person would act in a situation that's kind of like hairy. Because I think there's a trope that's been alive since Hollywood, that white people just like getting killed because they do stupid stuff in movies. Like they hear a creak and they're like, who is it? And they go to the creek and then they die. Like I would want that trope to stop, because I don't think everybody's that inquisitive. Like I don't think every white person in the world.
I, as a white person, would run the other way. Just putting it out.
Like I don't think, it was like to, like, if I lived in a house and my doors just kept opening up by themselves, I'm taking my doors off the hinges. Like, something's wrong, you know? Like, I don't know, like, or I would have already left if certain things happened, like, or if I'm the little girl and somebody pulled my foot and pulled me down the bed, and I know it wasn't my sister because she's sleeping, I'm not sleeping in the room no more.
Right.
Lights are coming on. Like, it's just like little things where I'm just like, how are you still comfortable in this setting? I don't understand how you're so comfortable.
And going to sleep in some instances. How do you do that? I can't even sleep thinking something's under my bed, let alone if there really was something under my bed. Holy crap, people.
Exactly. And then how do you go look? You never look under the bed. It never ends well. Like, it never ends well. So it was just like little things like that was like making me, I was getting frustrated through the film. I was just like, why aren't they acting like people? People don't act like this. Like, I was getting like really mad. But I mean, if I had to give it a rating, I would give it a solid 6. I wasn't afraid because this film was very informational to me. It was a lot of information.
Sure.
Just a lot of like, this is this family, this is how this is going, and then I guess they wanted to show us that it was stakes for the paranormal family by getting their daughter involved, even though the daughter is barely. It's just a thing. It's just like, okay, this is great. It's a 6. I'll never watch it again. And if somebody puts it on, I might just go to sleep for the heck of it. Because what's the point if you're watching it again? So yeah.
There is a certain point in which you do start to get so afraid all the time that it becomes the norm and you do sleep through it. And the reason I can say that is, we've gone through a fairly scary situation over the last couple of years and we've had to adjust. And so I know that you can. I don't know how easy it would be to adjust in a situation where there's a ghost literally tugging on your legs and pulling your hair and so on.
I would prefer if there was more awareness that something was happening for them. Like one girl spazzed out because she swore she saw somebody in the darkness, but then you went right back into that room and went to sleep. Like, it'd be a different story if like you just like if you saw them at different times, like, I don't want to go to sleep. Like, don't make me go to sleep. But there was none of that. It was just like, another day done. Time to go rest my head in this room where I saw a person standing in the corner. Like, I would have just go a little bit more. So.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I'm going to go ahead and give this a 7 out of 10. I actually like this better than Hereditary by a lot. Mostly because the ending is fine. It's simple. And this is before the Warrens started to really bug me. I thought this was a nice, fun, original story. I think it does some really, really great creepy parts, the practical effects. I really like the actors, kind of across the board, with the exception of, I know everybody's going to hate me for this, but Patrick Wilson's okay. I mean, I don't hate him, but he's just kind of, you could literally put Bradley Cooper in all of his roles and I would be just as happy. It wouldn't bother
Except for
me.
A-Team, you couldn't have taken him out of that because Bradley Cooper.
I know they're both in it, but I would have been okay with Bradley Cooper wore sunglasses to play the other character. It wouldn't have bothered me. I'm kidding, of course. But Ron Livingston kind of shocked me because he's always been a funny guy. He's never been as serious. And so to see him play kind of this empathetic character. And then Lily Taylor has always been phenomenal. I love her. She's great in almost everything. So,
I agree.
And then you've got, let's see, there was another person that's huge now who wasn't then. Where is she? Joey King. Is also pretty big.
Oh, Joey.
So
she's a goofball. They come back to bed. Like, girl, don't get out this room.
But good cast. I think the cast is huge, and again, solid script. So
the girls, it's not that Joey King is one of the girls. The other girl played Renesmee in Twilight, but she's grown up now. She played Renesmee in Twilight. Another girl was on that TV show Lie to Me. She played the daughter of Tim Roth's character. Like, I was looking at all these people. I was like, hey, I know these faces. So like, maybe that's another thing for me watching movies I ain't watching a while. I see people that I see actors that I've like seen on other stuff. That's always fun.
I didn't discover that I knew who Chris Pratt was till years later, and I'd seen him in about 12 roles before I ever saw him on Parks and Rec and didn't know it. Which is crazy because he always played the jerks. He always kind of like disregard the jerks for some reason, like unless they're like Joffrey style, like, the guy that plays Dickless from Ghostbusters. Like, those are like those you remember, but then most jerks you just forget about.
He played like a jock and Everwood, like when it was like a WB. Like I remember
Right.
him from the WB. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay.
Conjuring. There it is. That is how the Real Study feels about The Conjuring. If you do want to know how All the Movie Things feels about any of these movies, he did do a review on every one of these on his TikTok. So please go over there and check him out, so that you can see his actual take on these. Since he won't be here tonight, and I do believe that he had a lot of fun with Hereditary, and I think he had. I actually didn't see The Conjuring one, so I don't want to speak out of turn there. That being said, we're going to go ahead and do the pre-review. And again, I can't kill your guys' microphones. I'm so sorry, or I would. So we could chat off the screen, but we can't. Otherwise, we will be back. Please enjoy this week's pre-review.
How's it going, Real Study viewers? I'm Sean, and I'm back with this week's pre-review of all the movies coming to streaming and theaters this week. It's a rather light week when it comes to blockbusters, but there is one that I am very excited for. Hitting theaters this week is Last Night in Soho. Starring Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy, joined by Matt Smith, we get an incredible psychological thriller adventure from Edgar Wright, who I absolutely love. This movie looks incredible. I cannot wait to see where this one goes because, honestly, that trailer is just wow. Next, we have Antlers coming to theaters in true horror fashion for the Halloween season. We have a tale about a Wendigo monster that is somehow attached to a small young boy. This takes place in an Oregon town where it appears that a middle school teacher has been as a parental guardian for this boy, and her brother is a sheriff. They get caught up in a tale as this monster comes to life, and they learn the true power of the Wendigo. Netflix and Zack Snyder are taking us back to before Army of the Dead with Army of Thieves. This will follow another group as they put together to pull off a heist right at the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. This looks like a great adventure comedy with Zack Snyder written all over it. It honestly looks great. It kind of knows that the movie is on the nose. It makes several jokes about that right in the trailer itself. Looks like another fun one. I can't wait to watch this. Directors Matt Angel and Suzanne Coote bring us another Netflix thriller right in time for Halloween with Hypnotic. This is definitely a psychological thriller that is taking us on a ride of a woman who is dealing with some sort of trauma from her past, and she believes hypnosis is the solution to her problems. As usual in films like this, things do not go as planned, but this one is just full of tension all the way through. I cannot wait to watch this one. Finally, the last of our streaming, Paramount Plus brings us another Paranormal Activity movie in Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. Honestly, you go to look up some stuff about this and they say the plot is under wraps, but you can watch the trailer and pretty much pick up on the fact that this is in the future from the Paranormal Activity movies that we've seen. A young girl who is been given up. She's hunting down her original relatives. She's been adopted, and this is her tale of going and finding out that she's a part of that Paranormal Activity bloodline. It looks like a normal Paranormal Activity movie. If you love the tropes and the jump scares of these Paranormal Activity movies, you'll probably love this one. I'll probably check it out. Thanks for watching, Real Study viewers. I'm Sean, and this has been this week's pre-review.
All right, that's Sean. If you don't follow him on TikTok, please do. He's got some great Marvel comic book movie content. Please do. That being said, we're going to move into the big final movie of the night. And of course, pardon that we don't have... there we go. We have Dune, done by Canadian director Denis Villeneuve, and it's got a ridiculously great cast. Everybody from Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, you've got Zendaya, you've got who else? Just a ton of folks. A remaking of the original book series, as well as kind of a remake of the 1980s film. Not necessarily, but you can definitely, if you've seen this film, you'll notice that it is, without a doubt, taking some ideas Yes, if you have not seen Dune, please do depart. I understand this is not a movie you want to have spoilers for. Totally makes sense, and I respect that. Thank you, Captain, for stopping by and supporting us. As always, you are amazing. Thanks for the bits. Thanks for all the love. That being said, who would like to touch Dune first? Who would like to go on Dune first? Yes, Lala, what do you got?
Okay. Real quick though, doesn't it look right off the vine? Look at that.
That's fantastic. It's almost movie-like. Almost movie-like.
That's what I'm saying, right? Don't I look fake but real at the same time?
Right.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen Dune, it is streaming right now on HBO Max, and of course in theaters, which we encourage you to try to go to the theater if you can. If you can't, then of course try to catch it on HBO Max to at least support the film in some fashion. There will be, and I'm sorry if this is kind of considered a spoiler, but I don't consider pre-announcement spoilers, but there will be sequels to this film, and it's obvious if you watch it. But that being said, holy crap.
So, okay, let me preface this with saying I've never seen the original Dune. Okay. I know Kyle MacLachlan was in it, and I like him. And I think that's why they picked Timothée Chalamet, because he looks like a young Kyle MacLachlan. Like, he does look like him. Like, he looks like they pulled Kyle off the cover of the original Dune and was just like, they flapped it, and then it became Timothée Chalamet. Like, that's what it looks like. So I went to this film not knowing anything about it, because I think this is based off of like books and stuff like that, and they read the books. I will say, initial reaction watching this film, I was like, interesting. It had a lot of elements to it. I do feel like it's very compacted. It's a lot in this film. You have a lot of moving parts. So you have different types of people and creatures who have abilities that they really didn't touch on. They touched on a little bit, but they didn't really get too deep into it. You have, did you say Stellan Skarsgård? Because he's in this.
I didn't.
It was just interesting. You have people who have abilities, and then it's like a whole prophecy. It just seemed a lot for one movie, and after, sometimes it took me a little bit to like really remember who they were talking about. And then it's like a whole language that they speak, and it sounds very Arabic. I'm not sure. You can tell me, Tony could tell me if it's Arabic-ish or if it's close. It seems Arabic.
Which one?
I don't know. Like what was that? Like what they call him, like Liban al. I can't remember what it is. Like what they call him.
They really did. I mean, it's very much its own language that they use. And that's kind of the lure with Dune. It's like it's very poetic. Like if you look at the scope of everything, it's very much its own style, and you can tell it picks up on different things. And I think that the fact that the Dune planet, we have they're sand people, and doing that, I think they are incorporating a little bit of like the, not so much like full-fledged Arabic, but more of like the old Arabs, nomad, or
so it's like Arabic adjacent. So it's like Arabic adjacent, I guess you could say. It just sounds very familiar in a way.
Well, all the people they used for the Fremen were either of Arabic descent, or they were black, or they were potentially from Northern Africa.
Like
at least
Persian,
it seemed that way.
yeah.
Or Persian, yeah, exactly. So there was definitely a mix of all of that, without a doubt.
But just enough that the whole book has a lot of like Arabic influence. Okay, so that just seemed very okay. But I mean, aesthetically, the movie was beautiful. There are very good sights. I mean, it was like a lot of it took part in the desert, but like the aesthetic, like the aesthetic of clothes, like the what's it called, like the ornithopter, like the things that they fly in look like bugs, and it just took you to a different world. So I like the world building. The sandworm gave me Trimmer vibes, but that's just me.
Or you could say the Trimmer worms gave you Dune worm vibes.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Beetlejuice sandworms gave you Dune vibes.
Which came first, chicken or the egg, or the sandworm or the?
But hey, what comes first? What I prefer. So I was just saying. I would go. It gave me Beetlejuice vibes. That's how Beetlejuice first. But all in all, I thought it was a nice film. It's a lot. It's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of talking. And I get that this is titled, like in certain places, it's titled Dune Part 1. And then like Snippet said, like the way that it ends, you know that there's going to be more. Because to me, Snippet didn't like the way the Hereditary ended. I didn't like the way Dune ended. I was just like, okay, like I felt like they could have ended it. They ended it very ominous. They ended it with like a vision of his, which is like understandable, but it just ended very like. So I went through all this for it to end like this, and I know they ended it in a way to let you know that there's more to come, but I still feel like it could have been a more solid ending and still alluded to more. But that's just my initial.
I think they were trying to avoid what they did with the 80s film because they cut out so much that they got right to it. And so by making a multi-parter, they're leaving you with that Lord of the Rings, like, hey, the story's going to continue. Frodo's walking toward the mountain, but he's like, 80,000 parsecs away. So that's like a Star Wars reference, sorry. It's actually a science reference. But,
Lord of the Rings ended better. Like, to me, that ended in a way where I was like, oh, I can't wait.
Weird.
For the next one. For this one, I was just kind of like, okay. All right, that's how we ended it.
No, and hey, I love this because we all don't agree, and I love that we all don't agree all the time. We agree on a lot of specific things, but not all the details. Mr. Marvelite, let's hear your take on Dune.
Okay, so my background with Dune is actually kind of similar to Lala's. I wasn't a big fan. Like, I tried as I was younger to go back and watch the original, like the films and stuff. They were on television. Never really interested in it. I kind of passed Dune, like I passed in my younger age. A lot of the Star Wars novels, because I didn't like the expanded universe. I wasn't big on that. Now that I'm an MCU fan, I digest all that stuff now.
Right.
But coming into Dune, first of all, what I was very surprised about was how they took it. It took itself very seriously. And it did something that a lot of films do not do well when they try to do these anthology or sequel type films.
Mm-hmm.
Dune 2 had not been confirmed. Like, it wasn't, they wanted to do it, but it wasn't like a thing that was for sure thing. But I'm pretty sure that after it being released, it's definitely a for sure thing. When you had Lord of the Rings that came out, and it's being compared a lot to Lord of the Rings, and I can see why. Lord of the Rings was confirmed for the entire series. Peter Jackson was doing the trilogy. He wasn't confirmed for a single film. This film surpassed expectations where Aragon couldn't handle it, where John Carter couldn't handle it. You have lots of films. I mean, even Nightbreed, that we reviewed last week, it had the potential to become more, but it failed in the box office to do that. And so a lot of times you don't have these groups that are willing to do these big ventures, and that's why we get these stories that are just disjuncted and they don't make sense. And I was emotionally invested in Paul and his family. I found that there was the love between his family, but at the same time, like, the father knew the mother was had her ways because she was of the order. The father, which I was going into it, I loved the Duke. Like he was amazing. Like,
you mean as a human,
Oscar
just
Isaac,
as a person?
yeah, just as a person, like how he was a man of honor, and you understood why that house was a threat to the Empire, because not only were they building and becoming strong, but even sending them to this planet, they immediately built even a slight respect by the people, just for the fact that he's like, listen, your land is your own. If we just do the spices, I cannot say that I will never have to go into your lands. If I am in need to help, I will be there. And the guy is immediately like, I have nothing else to say. Like, he was fine with it.
Right.
And the way they even approached the people, like when the handmaid had the blade, and instead of immediately them taking her away, she said, just be prepared for violence, and everything was its own little nod, and to where the son, like, I liked Paul, and And I remember when I tried to watch Dune the first one, I really didn't like the character as much. I didn't resonate with him, and I feel that even as this, this son of a ruler, and he's meant for great things and all of this stuff, he was a very personable guy. He had love and fondness for the people around him, and you could just tell that that entire household was amazing.
Mhm.
Which is why I felt that the betrayal that took place was so deep, but at the same time that betrayal was almost a necessity, but it gave the way for, for a type of retribution. It was just like the whole political, the intergalactic political like pull of this film, like it just made itself so big. And like the order, I forget what the name of them are right now, but the order of the these women that Paul is kind of like a descendant of, which wasn't
It
supposed
was
to
like
happen.
it was like Bene Gesserit or
The
something.
Bene
Yeah,
Gesserit.
the Bene Gesserit, yeah. So like even just like them mentioning like that they have centuries of time at their disposal that they have done to work to manipulate all these things, like it opens up the opportunity for world. And I think they're going to be going forward with doing a Dune spin-off series that's going to delve into the world of Dune more. Not necessarily touch on the film, but I was reading something where it said that they're going to do like a series that kind of like world builds that it's adjacent to the story of Dune.
Mhm.
But I just
wouldn't
I
miss
loved
it
it,
though.
and I liked it. I as much as I didn't like the director for what he said about like Marvel films, he's doing a good job.
So
And
I respect that too.
yeah,
Denny, to me, he wasn't. Sure, he has his view, the same way Nolan does, or the same way people who are trying
Scorsese.
to or Scorsese, who are trying to approach it from what they view as an art form, and they see the MCU as more of a bubblegum art form, which is fine. And I think they need to understand that they're being gatekeepy and they're not
Yep.
being respectful. That movies are for everybody, and you don't own the rights to film in general. Make your movies. We'll see them. We love you. Back off of our roller coaster movies. Like, we love them. Lala, go ahead.
Just on that, I'm just on to piggyback on that. I feel like you can't talk mess about something else when you're recreating a film that already came out. Or
That's fair.
if I'm speaking like Scorsese, you can't, when you create the same film with the same people just titled under something different. So I mean, for me, you don't have a leg to stand on when you do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. I would rather people just be way more honest and be like, listen, these films are taking over the world. Can you please just go see my film, please?
Or just, it's not my cup of tea. I appreciate that you guys like it, but it's not my deal. Like, I wish
So
more
you
people
get a
would
lot of
watch it.
publicity when you bash on Marvel films.
But I also feel like the people that talk mess about Marvel films either saw it, enjoyed it, and hated that they enjoyed it, or have never seen it and is just piggybacking off of like rhetoric that they've heard, right? Because if you look at these films, there's nothing wrong with them. They're pure enjoyment.
Sure.
The only thing was they hit at a time that seemed to erase, and I'm putting up quotes, erase other people's films, right? But that's not their fault.
No, if people aren't going to go see those movies, they're not going to go see them. Like, it doesn't matter whether the MCU exists or not.
To do with MCU or a Marvel movie, however it is, because we've been watching these. If you think about it, we've been watching Marvel films since Blade.
Right.
It's been some type of Marvel film that has come out, whether it was under the guise of a Marvel, like of Disney or Marvel or anything like that. Whenever they were with Fox or Universal, whatever, we watched these films because we enjoyed these characters.
Right.
It has nothing to do with with the whole thing. But I digress. But
no, you're good. You're good. Okay,
Well,
so I have not given my take. I want to give my take. I don't want to go off too far on a Denis Villeneuve. I get it. We definitely given our piece. I respect where you guys are both coming from, and I agree with you. I think we all three agree on this. That being said, the moment this movie begins, you're like, holy crap, this movie is epic. And I found that this film, which is going to be true amongst the trilogy if they go that direction, or at least getting a part 2, and we know that for sure. I think now that this is done well, we may get a trilogy. And since he didn't shoot 2 yet, he could they can finagle it. They can figure it out. There's enough material, and as just enough can tell you, there's several books, so there's plenty of material. That being said, this movie is a full-blown Shakespearean tragedy. There is nothing about this particular film that will make you go, yay for life. No, like everything is being ripped away from these two characters in almost every possible way. And you see the potential for hope. You see the potential for a future. But even that in itself is a lie, because even Paul's visions aren't quite solidified and aren't quite the way he sees them, aren't how they play out. So like, and we get to see that in the film, which I thought was great. I loved the spit scene, and I hate spit. Like I actually cannot stand spit on any level. And yet when that guy spit, I was like, oh, I could tell right away. I was like, oh, that's his culture. Like he's just being culturally cool. He's not spitting on the guy. And Brolin, I feel like brings it in this role, because I feel like he's going to tackle and kill everyone around him at all times. I feel like he is the head of security. You could tell he brings the presence that he's going to protect Duke Leto no matter what.
He's perfectly balanced.
Yes. And I think that some of the fun lines, and yeah, I know there's a lot of exposition in this film, but I think what makes this such a brilliant sci-fi film and series, just from the original author even, is that it is more dialogue-y. It's a little bit more like, again, we're referencing Lord of the Rings. It's a bit more about the breakdown, the Game of Thrones style breakdown, if you will, versus the Star Wars just good versus evil. In fact, I heard a TikTok today that actually claims that if you watch very closely, Star Wars is just a direct ripoff of the original Dune books. So it's almost like you take The Hidden Fortress and Dune, and you have Star Wars. And if it makes sense, if you think about it. And since
Evil Empire,
Dune was written well before Star Wars was made, so it all makes some sense. I think this is one of the most beautifully muted films I've ever seen. So the color palette is exceptionally muted and still gorgeous. And there's so many browns that they have to deal with that they do a good job of balancing those browns. My biggest complaint is that they teased those worms, and you only really get to see a little bit of them. And I know we're going to get way more worms later. But they're bigger than any other movie yet. They were way bigger in this than they were in the original, and they're bigger than the Beetlejuice worms, which are now kind of like piddly in comparison. Yeah. But
I can fight the Beetlejuice worms. Like,
right, Gina Davis did. She punched one in the face.
These are like Nightcrawlers on steroids,
right? So to me, I loved all the world building. Like I think Lala was saying, it's such a beautiful, like all the little trinkets, the little designs of all the suits, and of course you understand that, wait, this 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid knows how to put on a Fremen's, desert suit without ever being told what's going on. So there's like a lot of prophetic stuff, which I think is fantastic. But overall, it's hard to talk about this film without just going over the express details, because honestly, we don't know where it's going. I mean, I guess we do. I've seen the original film, so I know the baseline of where it's going. But Skarsgård made me mad. He
oh my god. Sorry.
Easy to hate. Go ahead, La, please. No, I'm gonna go off about just how much I love this film and not make it a conversation. So please.
Wait. Okay, I'm a big fan of Stellan Skarsgård, and I love his son because, oh my god. Okay. Anyway, Tarzan, anyone? But anyway,
the Skarsgårds in general are pretty amazing.
I mean, come on, you just gotta love them.
That family's got talent.
But it's crazy. You be like, stop it! Like, stop procreating too. I'm pretty sure them kids gonna have talent. It's annoying. But Stellan in this gave me very much. He gave me a mix of like, what's my man Jabba the Hutt like vibe, but not as creepy, But that like bigger. He gave me like, who's the character that Colin Farrell is playing in the Batman? Can't remember his name.
Penguin?
Oh, Penguin, yeah.
Penguin. So yeah, he gave me like Penguin and Jabba the Hutt vibes. Like if you mix them together, because he was a heavier dude, but he was like menacing and just kind of like slimy, but just without the slime to me. I enjoyed, even though he wasn't in the movie a lot, I enjoyed his performance, right? Because you could feel his presence. You could feel like his intentions. You know what I mean? You could just feel all of that, and when you can feel that to me off the screen, like, and I can feel that at home. Usually you get that feeling when you're like at the theater and it's like right in your face. The fact that I could feel that from my seat at home, like I love I love that I got that performance out of him. Also, I was just one thing. This is gonna be crazy that I'm saying this because I love Oscar Isaac and just delicious. But why was he naked?
He is
at the chair. Like I don't.
Oh no! Okay, so that's a power move. That's a power move. Stripping down all the way. That's what you do in prison. It's totally normal. Yeah, absolutely. You're humiliating somebody who's usually got a stature. He's a duke. He's a king of sorts. And you've taken all of his normal, really appropriate garb. You've laid him out and prostrated him for the whole world to see his private parts. And yeah, absolutely.
I just felt like we know he's fine. You gotta make him naked though. It's like relax, calm down.
Well, you think about it. Dune has a lot of biblical references. That's very much a biblical reference if you think about it. Even at the crucifixion, you have Jesus that is stripped down naked, and it's a form of humiliation for that purpose. And so when you've got the Duke of Atreides that's stripped down like that, that is he has nothing. He's completely barren. He is helpless. He's paralyzed. He has no way of defending himself or protecting himself, no shield, nothing. They're standing there looking at him as like pretty much as a dog. But of course he does have that, that little
I like that capsule in his teeth. But I mean I definitely get that all that makes sense. But also I feel like you would humiliate people in front of their people, right? To discredit them in some way. You're humiliating him like in front of. Because, like, if you go the biblical way, Christ got humiliated in front of his people, like people that he was supposed to like protect and things like this. And for me, Oscar's people were like, y'all killed them all. Who you gonna be?
But the Baron wanted to show his people that he was dominant over this Duke, and I love what Justine just said. She's right. They were dominant over air and sea. Like they basically had it on lock no matter where they went. That's why the desert was a big trick on Arrakis for them, because they never had to adapt to a desert. So for them, it was a big deal. But they seem to be doing pretty good almost right off the bat, especially with the party they sent ahead with the Jason Momoa character, who I've forgotten his name like 100 times. With Duncan, Idaho. And
the whole thing. The most like earthling name you could possibly
No, it's have. Duncan and Paul, and everybody else has a crazy weird name. Baron, Vladimir, Harkonnen, and then of course you've got Jessica. I guess it's a few regular names: Paul, Jessica, and Duncan. Everybody else is like Leto and what is this one? Thur. But anybody that's in the Fremen is going to have a fairly unique name, I would say.
For sure.
Javier Bardem was in the movie, and I don't know why, but I don't remember who he was. Was he one of the?
He was the guy who spit on the desk.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Why? Because he had his face covered. That's probably why I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The moment he opened his mouth, I was like, "Oh, it's Javier." I'm a fan.
The thing about the lead into them leaving the place and going into the whole, again, spoilers, the whole idea that Duncan has to defend them to his demise. I liked that Jason Momoa was willing to be serious enough in the film, and not that he's not that he doesn't take his role seriously, but he's usually playing a bit of a goofier character or the hot character, or he's not acting on that level most of the time. And I'm not, no offense, he's doing rock style acting, which is fine. It's first level. It's pretty simple. But in this movie, he took it a step further, and he actually got serious and shaved the thing that makes him pretty and made himself look kind of weird. And I respected the hell out of the fact that he shaved his beard for that scene and wasn't that gorgeous man we all expect, because it's his beard that makes him really gorgeous, I swear. Like Marvelite. If you look at Mr. Marvelite, if you know that beard, man, it's solid and strong.
Listen, there's nothing Jason Momoa could do that can make me listen. When he was in that commercial, he like he was taking off all his muscles. I was like, he's still fine though. Like he's still good looking. You with a little body, like I don't know. There's nothing you can do. I'm a fan of his since like watch when he was like a fresh faced kid. So, yeah.
I was waiting for him to say "my man" at some point in this film, and when he said "my boy," I'm like, okay, that's good enough.
Yeah.
It showed me that he's going to go further. Although I could have said that with Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones. Like that's my first introduction to him, and I was like, oh, they got some, they got some guy from overseas to play this character. That's awesome. He didn't really have to go very far with his accent. Boy, was I wrong. No, seriously, that was my first introduction to him. So that's what I thought, that he was not from, an English speaking country. I was dead wrong. So hairless, he's still a beauty. All right. I mean, if you like a naked mole rat version of Jason Momoa, that's fine. That's fine.
I think what was really nice about this character, though, I mean, which also kind of like delved into, I think Jason Momoa's character, Duncan Idaho, showed that they weren't just going in for conquest. Like, he spent time with these people,
Mhm.
and the only time he was in battle was when they sent one person to try to kill him. And I think at that point, just like we saw with Paul, at the end of the film, that battle to the death is what earns your place and honor or respect with these people. And for Duncan to do that, and it's pretty much, for this entire group of people, the Duke and his subjects, they are honorable people, they're respectful people, and that is what the biggest threat to the Empire was, that the fact that no matter where they went, they were going to garner the respect for people around them. And like someone said, I think it was Justine said in the chat, um you take away the land and the land, the sea, the air from them, and give them just the sand, and you make them struggle. That was the only way that you could weaken that household for them to fall. And at the same time, there was a manipulation that was going on that was leading this as well, beyond just the fall of the house.
Right.
And so I'm all for it. I'm very much invested in this. In fact, I watched it last night, and then I was doing stuff for the show, and I was like, I'm gonna put it back on again. So I was just generally enjoying it. I think Jessica's a mom, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think I've coming in blind from this, I have problems with her. And I'm
The
kind
actress
of
or the
interested to
character?
see the character.
Okay.
Like, I like her. I mean, other than the fact that she almost ruined Bardem and Bailey's life in Greatest Showman, but we're not going to go there.
Hilarious.
Are you talking about The Greatest Showman?
Yeah, she was the singer that kissed him on the on in the travel.
In front of the camera and stuff like that. That's
good for her. Good for her.
She's also the one that, if you watched Reminiscence, she was the one that was told Hugh Jackman's life, or his love and his heart, and like messed him up.
She really don't care about Hugh Jackman at all.
Yeah. You kind of like, I feel like I kind of don't like her in films for the most part, but then at some point, like in Reminiscence, I did like her. So I'm hoping that's the case in this one. But I just have like these. I don't trust her yet. I don't trust her this way.
Have you seen the original Dune, Marvelite?
I've not.
Okay.
No,
I'm walking into this knowing the story.
I was turned off on it.
Okay. So I walked into this knowing and again, they didn't get the movie right. You can ask just enough. They didn't. It's not. That movie isn't perfect, and everybody seems to hate it. But I like a lot of David Lynch's stuff, and I don't mind his weirdness because I'm a bit of an odd nut, so I don't have a problem with it. And I liked Kyle MacLachlan. It's got Patrick Stewart. It's got Sting. It's got some pretty interesting characters. The person that plays the Harkonnen, the Baron, in that one is way grosser. Grosser's not a word. More gross, more disgusting. Boils. The vat was more disgusting, and it was 80s, so it had like a bleh. And you're right. It is hard. We've got red bearded gent talking about how she's the devil, how she can't be trusted. And
don't tell me more though. I don't want to spoil.
But you're right. Yeah. She already. You look at the way the Duke approached her. We're just talking about this movie. Forget about anything that may be spoiled. I'm not going to even tell you guys how it goes. I'm doing my best to just talk about this segment of the film, or of the story. But she's already, taken Paul away from the Duke when he kind of said, don't take him there. I don't really want him part of this. And she did it anyway behind his back. And he even expressly says, I don't like that you did that. And now I have to deal with this. And he's different since then. What the hell are you doing to my boy? So like, it's hard to trust her. You're right. It's hard to trust her. But at the same time, she has given Paul the strength to learn how to use the voice and to survive in this really harsh world. So it's kind of hard to say, like, is she trustworthy overall, or is she benefiting just Paul, or does she have some kind of weird extra? It's hard to say. So, but I'm with you.
See, but I don't know. I didn't have a problem with her. I can tell that she loves her son. I can tell that she just wants him to be a full person, and you can't be a full person with just half of yourself, right? Like you can't just lean on just the teachings of your father, none of your mother, and then expect to be a whole person. And for uh Leto to, I understand that she went behind his back, essentially, or whatever you want to call it, but to even deny her, to deny him his birthright, because obviously you can tell that she's powerful herself.
Right.
Not only is she strong with the voice, but she's a strong fighter as well. That's a part of Paul's DNA. That's a part of what makes him the one, essentially. So everything that the Duke was trying to help Paul become, it's because of his mother that he becomes that as well.
That's
so
fair.
I mean, essentially in the first one, I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen the original one. I probably ain't gonna see it, even though, but I just think it's very short sighted to deny. If that's like me having a kid and I got some type of legacy that I want to pass on, and my husband's like, no, you can't. All he needs from me is what I'm going to give him and nothing else. And I think that's messed up. Also, the original one, David Lynch, I read some stuff about the original one. David Lynch said that they didn't let him, producers and some other people didn't let him do what he wanted, which is why that film is like, people go back and forth about if it's good, if it's not, because he said that artistically he didn't get to end the film how he wanted to end it.
It's still a beautiful film. The blue eyes were done well. The Fremen suits, you can tell that they actually almost adopted the exact same desert suits over, because the look is almost like they've changed it obviously, but the nose connection and all of that just looks really close. So I think, as an honor to David Lynch, Denis Villeneuve, being my age, probably went, I should probably throw a little respect to the original filmmaker and a legend in film as well. So I'm almost convinced that it would be hard not to at least visit that source material on some level.
I'm curious how they get blue eyes though, because in one of his visions, Paul and his mother had blue eyes, so they become like full Fremen somehow, and I wonder how they get blue eyes. I'm curious.
I will say nothing because I do know the answer to that. So yes,
and I honestly feel like I feel like the visions are part of part 2. I feel like they've already filmed some stuff for part 2.
Sure. I agree. Costume design was set design on this movie was off the charts. This movie got to win some awards. Like it just needs to.
Because they had like deep colors. Like they had like when they were walking through the desert. Obviously, Peter is his name Peter? Paul? I don't know his name.
Paul Atreides?
Peter was in Hereditary.
Okay, thank you. I'm like, it's too many Peters and dark-haired white boys.
Too many biblical names. What are we doing here?
What's going on? He had on all black, which is very similar to Kyle MacLachlan's character. Had on the all black, but then his like the little cape thingy was like a lighter black. You know, he's like more like a dark gray. So that kind of like bounced off. Like his mother had on like a darker, like a darker brown, but then her cape was like light. And I was just like, this is like the color schemes, how they dress, how they cover their faces, all that stuff was like very aesthetically pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like to me, no outfit was off kilter. I enjoyed the costume, because to me, when you put on the costume, you kind of become the character, and you're like in that world, and I love that. So.
I agree. There was one audio part and one visual part that pulled me out for a moment. The audio part, when they were talking about the team that was going to attack Arrakis, the guy's voice, that like amplifier, really bugged the crap out of me. It wasn't the throat singing in the background. It was his voice, and it's something about the digitization of that they did that just didn't sit right with my brain. Could just be me. And then there's the moment where Paul is in the vision and his visor comes up and you see him with the blue eyes, and you can see that that's 100% a digital helmet on his face. And
oh my God, yeah.
It bothered me a little bit. I'm like, come on, Denny, dude. Like, I love a lot of stuff you do, and most of your visuals are so on point, but somebody just had to hurry that one through somehow. I don't know. Maybe it needed to go out for the preview. Yeah. So those are the only two like complaints. I'm not trying to like pick apart the movie because it's hard to, but those two things did stick out to me. But they're subtle and little. They don't matter. yeah, no, this I'm ready for part 2. That's all I can say. Is I haven't felt like I heard Straw Hat Goofy was like, dude, I haven't been this excited since Lord of the Rings. Now, full disclosure, I can't stand the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit. I think it's all very contrived and boring and slow, and really honestly, you can't get me to watch them. There'll be an automatic veto. Anyway, I don't like them, and I respect Lord of the Rings fans. They're some of the nicest fans in the world. Every time I tell Lord of the Rings fans I don't like Lord of the Rings, they're like, "Oh, that sucks," and then they talk to me about it if I want to, or whatever else. If it was Star Wars, that would be very different, or Marvel for that matter, or vampires. I don't know if you guys saw that happen this last week. Do you guys know McNerd?
Yeah.
McNerd answered one of my questions about being a vampire, and the vampire community on TikTok went for the throat, literally.
Yeah.
I'll show you the video later, Marvel. It was great. Any final?
I like the theory that went out on TikTok not too long ago about mirrors. That was, why mirrors would not work on vampires.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that.
Now, like that was I thought that was pretty cool. In fact, it became a table discussion at dinner tonight.
Nice.
And my mom, who like used to watch like horror films way back when, she's like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense." So,
you know who we didn't mention?
Yeah,
in this film, there was a person we didn't mention at all.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about
it. Part 2.
Yeah, because his part is so little in this. He had 2 lines? I think maybe 3, and then he showed up a couple times.
Can we stop for a second and just pay respect for the fact that, and I know we already talked about this, we don't have to go any deeper, but the director bashed on Marvel, but you had Zendaya, you had Oscar Isaac, who's going to be Moon Knight. You've got Dave Bautista in this film. You've got,
they literally don't have a choice. They've collected all the actors. These are now studio actors, in a way. Anyway.
Yeah, but it was just like, it was so
yeah,
funny.
he was Drax. Just enough just corrected you strangely. You didn't say Drax. That's weird.
Oh, I hadn't gotten there.
Oh, I thought you did say Drax. Doesn't matter.
No, he didn't.
We need some
Oscar Isaac. I said Oscar Isaac, Zendaya. I said Josh Brolin. I hadn't gotten to Bautista. Justin beat me to it.
Okay, so we got a minute before we're technically supposed to be done, but we started 5 minutes late. So why don't we spend this next couple minutes just giving our review and whether we think the next film will be better or worse than this one. I like the idea of kind of predicting, since we have that ability to come back and see what we said. We did Lala first last time, so now we're going to do Mrs. Marvelite.
No, I think it's you.
No, because I did the very first one when I gave my 5 in the beginning, so I'm counting that as one.
I feel like I gave her. Okay.
If not, then Lala, please go ahead. What's your review of Dune?
Overall, I don't think it was a bad film. I can give this film a solid 8 because I did enjoy it. I didn't like. I don't think it was a bad film, but for me, it just seemed like a lot. And I'm not saying it didn't give me a lot, but it just seemed like a lot. And like maybe I need to watch it again because I actually just watched it today. So like it's not like I watched it multiple times and like let some stuff sink through. But I do give this an 8. I probably will watch it again just to get like another look at it. I know for a fact that there's going to be 2 more Dune movies. I already know. You can count me. You can call me on it now. I'm saying it right now in this episode that there's going to be 2 more Dune movies because I just feel like a lot of like Zendaya was in this movie, but she was barely in it. She was pretty much in like vision as opposed to actually being there. So I know she's going to have a bigger role in the second one. I know there's more to unpack with these characters. Dave Bautista's character, the fact that that's his uncle, he has a weird loyalty to his uncle. I mean, obviously, but he has a weird loyalty that I'm pretty sure we're going to see that pay off somewhere in the second one. So it's just, and again, all those visions let me know that there's going to be more. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this film. Like I said, I give it an 8. I think my younger self would have been like, I don't care. I probably would have gave it a 6.
Okay, 8-6. Mr. Marley.
So, a long time ago, I really tried to get into this series, the story, because I know it's like a quintessential sci-fi story. I mean, a lot of things are based off of Dune. Um, the '80s movie kind of just didn't do anything for me. I struggled with that as a young person. Um, I'm an '80s kid, so millennial here, but and so it always turned me off. And it was very similar for me, like um the Ender series with Ender's Game. I was forced by someone to read Ender's Game and then got hooked and just absorbed everything, and then I hated the movie. This is the first time where I'm in this film and I'm watching something that I knew I had not previously appreciated, knowing that there's so much like information behind. And I kind of feel like I wish I would have had that background like I did with Lord of the Rings, where I could go in there like, oh yeah, this. But at the same time, I'm kind of I'm torn right now. I kind of want to go into this movie or this trilogy blind and be excited because this is how I'm seeing it, and then go dive into the material. Because honestly, I love this film. I love the characters. I as straight as some of the characters tried to play, like with their facial features, there was so many like telling responses by their reactions to things that weren't even verbal, that when you go back and you look at like what's going on with these characters, like there's so much in the idea of the politics that it really made me just want to go back and really get into it. And so I'm gonna say this is, I'd hate to give it a 10 and then it never get a good for it, like a good like completion
Mm-hmm.
later on, but I'm gonna say at least a 9.5. And um I'm
I know,
hoping
right?
that as the end of the series, with if this series is done really well, it can easily be a 10 for me. So
Sweet. I like it. Okay. What about Kid Self? You didn't say.
Kid Self, um I would have struggled to get into this, but after watching it, I probably would have given this like a 8 or a 9 as well, because this is the kind of thing I liked. I liked these big world stories, and I just I struggled with the original Dune, but this one, all of the previous stuff that I'd ever attempted to try to do pales in comparison. So
That's fair. For myself, I already mentioned that there were two flaws that I noticed, which is fine because I actually believe a movie can be a 10 with flaws. I don't think that that stops a movie. For that reason, I do want to call this a 10. I was so enamored. I'm so ready to watch again. I'm actually ready to watch it a third time, and I haven't watched it a second time. That's how excited I am about this film. And it's ridiculous because I haven't been this excited about a film probably since the MCU started. So world building, big, knowing where it might go. And I've been looking and waiting for a big epic story to sink my teeth into. So this is nice, and it's from one of my favorite directors. So this is good. I'm totally excited. So 10 out of 10. Kid me. Oh, Psychopunk, thank you for showing up. I know that you can't always, but thank you for subscribing for 8 months as well. We've got 2 8-month subscribers, just Jesse as well as Psychopunk. You guys are both so amazing. Thank you so much. We are just about to finalize here. I'm giving my rating, and then we're going to raid. I'm not sure who we're rating tonight, but we're going to raid somebody because it's fun. Anyway, Kid Self probably would also rate this a 10, although... Yeah, no, I would have rated it a 10 because it's got about the same pacing that the original Star Wars films did, where it was that pace, but that's the pace I grew up on, so it wouldn't have bothered me. The world building, the betrayal alone sucked me into this movie. I really love Leto, and yet, anyway. So because you love him, you don't want that to happen to him. Everything else we mentioned, I don't really want to go back over too much because we covered a lot about the sets and the costumes and just how amazing all of it is. Somebody should invent one of those suits, except I don't really want to drink my own pee, but it would definitely make desert life a little easier.
It filters, right?
Yeah, I know. I watched Waterworld. I watched him pee into that thing and filter it. I'm not.
yeah, but that you had to pee into a Mr. Coffee and get Taster's Choice.
Oh, come on. That was bad. Okay, so I think we did raid Darth Cadus last time, but he's awesome, and so being that I don't see anybody else on, I'm going to do it again. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to this episode of The Real Study?
Just
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I just said go ahead.
Okay. So for those of you, and if you're not on Discord, please be on the Discord. We will try to like post like what we're going to be watching. That way, you guys can kind of be in the discussion with us. If you haven't seen these films and you want to see these films, just be advised. The Conjuring is available on HBO Max as well as a lot of the other Conjuring series. Dune is also at HBO Max for a short period of time. At some point, it will go off, and then it'll wait till it gets back on distribution for video. So please make sure you can watch that if you've got that there. And probably the cheapest place to watch Hereditary is on Amazon Prime. It's a rental right now for like $1.99.
Nice. I think it's like $3 on Vudu, so it's pretty cheap everywhere. But that's an SD version, by the way, not an HD version. I'm almost certain.
Right.
But this movie, I would say all three of these films should be watched in high def. I think if a movie was made in high def, it should be watched in high def. If it was made in SD, it's really up to you. That's my call. Anything else, Lala, you want to
add? I would like to say, don't forget to follow each and every one of us on Twitch, on TikTok, on all the social medias. We're all in there, as well as all the movie things. He's on TikTok. He's not on Twitch, but follow him on TikTok. And just support us. You know, we support those who support us. And thanks as always for joining us and listening to us rant about films, because that's what we love to do. So yeah.
Perfectly said. You guys have a great night. We're gonna raid. Here we go. Raid with us. Good night, guys.
Good night.